Hello everybody, welcome back to Late to the Party, my regular column and stream for my newsletter Astrolabe, which you can find right above me there, that I do for every issue of the newsletter, where I go back in time and I play an old game that I've either never played before or barely played. I spend my lunch hour playing it, and then I write about it in the newsletter. This time around, we're playing Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, which was a 1992 Super Nintendo game made by Square, the creators of Final Fantasy, in an attempt to appeal to a broader Western audience. Japanese RPGs like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest had a lot of success in Japan, but they had kind of struggled to find their footing in North America. And Final Fantasy Mystic Quest was an attempt to reconcile that. Japanese RPGs, even with the brilliance of Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, wouldn't find their foothold over here until several years later, when Final Fantasy VII released finally on the PlayStation and sort of blew the top off the genre, and it had a huge surge in popularity from that point forward. So it was not a game designed for the West that did it. In fact, it was a game that was designed very much in line with the other Final Fantasy games, and the intention of Square Enix wasn't to revolutionize the industry, at least not them as publishers. Perhaps the developers and creators wanted to do that, but developers were just, creating a game they thought would sell well in Japan, and it did, but it had huge, unprecedented success in the West. Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, on the other hand, tries to take a lot of the sort of like traditional RPG elements found in the earlier NES games and stuff, and sort of streamline them a bit. They felt like US and North American gamers needed something simpler rather than something more unique like what Final Fantasy VII did. So here we go. Starts off with some pretty banging music, which is not unusual for the Final Fantasy series, but we're in a dungeon or somewhere at the top of a mountain that looks suspiciously like the floating continent for Final Fantasy VI, which is kind of interesting. So here we go. So this it looks off the bat like very similar to the other Final Fantasy, the mainline Final Fantasy games from that era, Final Fantasy IV, Final Fantasy V. But what you'll notice is right off the bat, you can see that I have like a health meter on this main like exploration screen. You can see the weapon I have equipped as well, and I was just able to use jump. So there are actions you can take in the overworld, which other RPGs have obviously implemented, and it's not uncommon, but it's not something that we often saw in the Final Fantasy series, really all the way up until Final Fantasy 15, I guess. If you don't count the MMOs, but okay, here we go. So, Focus Tower, the one's the heart of the world. No Prophecy says. Okay, so we've got a prophecy. 4 monsters are locked. Have locked the doors to the Focus Tower and escaped with the keys. So it, when they align with 4 crystals of the Earth. So obviously, like right off the bat, we can see that the structure here is for the main character to, roam around the world, find the, hey man, how's it going? Thanks for joining us today. We're going to go around the world, try to defeat these fiends, get the keys to the tower, save the crystals, and prevent chaos from taking over the world. Only you could be the knight spoken of in the prophecy. For some unknown reason, like my main character right now is just a generic hero. There's no real reason given for why he alone is the sole hero of prophecy. But I'm sure there's some juicy explanation later on, right? So one of the strange things here is that the right off the bat, the health meter is not it's sorry, it's not numbers based. It's like it's this like bar graph. So again, like trying to like they're really trying to like simplify the presentation. And I just died on the first battle. I always thought that battle is scripted because it's usually pretty tight against this behemoth. But I usually win like just before my main character dies. A couple times I've played the opening to this game. Once he loses his horns, he becomes much weaker. Just kind of funny that they would start the game with, you know, an intense battle that you could lose if their like intent was to try to appeal to Western gamers. Obviously, the choices that they made to do so in this game weren't great. Like they didn't really pan out. The game was not very successful. All right, seems I found a true knight. But you said you were sure I was the one. Well, actually, it was more of a guess. All right, it's a little bit of humor, which is great. Thanks. So I need to go find the crystals. This guy riding a cloud has no advice for me. But we're going to go to somewhere called the Level Forest. Okie dokie. One of the great things I think about the Final Fantasy series around this time as it moved to the Super Nintendo was the sprite work for the characters really took a level up. And not just like, you know, in design. The designs are still fairly simple at this point. But the way that they were able to express emotion and act, you got a lot more animation from the sprites, and you can see it. You certainly saw it in Final Fantasy IV, especially Final Fantasy V. I think that's where it really started to shine before Final Fantasy VI took it again to another level. But you could even see a little bit of that here in Mystic Quest. So I'm just in the settings screen, customize screen. I just switched my life indicator to a figure instead of a scale, so I have numbers, message speed up to fast. I don't know what control does. There's auto and manual, window color. But here we can see, you know, fairly generic, fairly straightforward menu system. So I have different weapons. This almost looks like, you know, a Zelda game, which is kind of funny to see in a Final Fantasy. Like it's not, you know, not heavily text driven. But I've got some armor. I've got some. Don't have any spells, but I do have magic levels. So you can see I have 3 white, 1 black, and 0 wizard. So I assume different types of magic have different require different kind of magic types. So I can use 3 white spells before resting 1 black. No idea what wizard is. No items. So we're gonna go into level forest here. What do you think I should do first? Save the Crystal of the Earth. See ya. This guy's not helpful. And my character knows it too. Yeah, so here we go. If I can finally control my character, you can see I can jump. But I can also use the weapon I have equipped. And that comes into some environmental problem solving. My sword cannot cut down these trees. I probably get an axe that'll let me get that treasure there. I also cannot run, unfortunately. So it's a little slow going here. Alright. Okay, so that was cool. I could jump over the guy. That's interesting. I wonder if I can jump over those trees. If you want to go through this forest, find Kaylee in Forestia and show her this. Tree Wither. Okay. There we go, some cure potions. So I can't jump over trees. Okay. Well, it seems like maybe I can go back there later on after I have an axe. There's Kaylee. First person I talked to. There's a tree blocking the north exit of the level forest. I can chop down the tree, but monsters have taken over the forest and can't get to it. I can help you with that. Come on, let's go. Don't you dare take Kaylee anywhere dangerous. Listen, Mom. Hey, that tree wither looks awful. How much trees must be suffering? Okay, you win. She's got an axe. Perfect. So Kaylee joined. So I can see now, like, I have my main character, who obviously I control throughout the game, and then more likely than not, I'm going to get companion characters, like one companion character at a time, probably related to whatever subquest or area that we're kind of moving through at that time. And Kaylee has an axe. I don't know. I wonder if I get an axe or if it's sort of dependent on which character you have with you. So this forest is really like brown and drab. I don't know if that's just, you know, an intentional design choice, or if part of what this early quest is going to involve is sort of revitalizing this plant or this region. So we'll see about that. Graphically, it's very, very simple. Not a ton of personality. Which I think that, like, Square was really interesting on the Super Nintendo because their early efforts of this game, Final Fantasy IV, Final Fantasy V, weren't visually ambitious at all, which is so different than the Square we know now, which was, you know, which are sort of like the leaders in terms of using kind of cinematic storytelling techniques, and you know, they've defined the cinematic JRPG, but that didn't really start until probably Secret of Mana, where they really started putting like an emphasis on graphics. And that, of course, Secret of Mana was supposed to be a CD-based game, and so they really kind of amped up what they were doing graphically with that game, and it shows. It's a gorgeous game. It's still a gorgeous game, and from that point on, Squaresoft really seemed to start putting an emphasis on visual presentation, on graphics, on pushing the genre forward visually as much as anything else. And I think that works really well for them as a studio. Comparing a game like this to a game like Trials of Mana, one of which came out at the beginning of the system's lifespan, one of which came out in its kind of final days, is astounding, and to me represents like the biggest graphical leap within a console generation, of any console generation. I think there's been other, you know, really nice leaps from the beginning to the end of a console's lifespan, but like comparing Mystic Quest to Trials of Mana is just crazy. And that's just within the developer. There's also stuff like Star Ocean. You almost wouldn't believe that this game came out on the same console as Star Ocean, but it did, and that's like just over the course of however many years, 4 years. That's kind of astounding to me. All right, so she was able to cut that with an axe. So far, it doesn't seem like I can actually cut. Oh, okay. So control, now that I have another character, I can set it to auto, so she'll just attack on her own, or I can set it to manual. So that also explains what was going on in the menu system. So she's got life. Okay, I can have white magic. I have 3 uses. She has life. Black magic, I have nothing. I have no wizard magic with her. Pretty nice sprites. Really unique kind of battle system for the genre, or sorry, for the series at this point. Just the behind the back view replicates Dragon Quest more than it replicates the Final Fantasy games that came before it, which I find really interesting. It looks like Dragon Quest, or it looks like Lufia. And of course, like the series never really abandoned the traditional, like, you know, enemies line up on one side, your team lines up on the other for the mainline games. But it's interesting that when trying to make a series or a game to appeal to a Western audience, that they went with something that was like a trademark. Oh shoot, trademark of their competitors' series. I would also say that the sprites in the game don't sort of like Final Fantasy, you know, really doubled down on Yoshitaka Amano's art and had some kind of really unique and quirky and just unusual character or enemy design. And this game doesn't really have that. It has, fairly generic enemy design, and even above and beyond that, like, these, I'm fighting slimes, but when you think about these slimes versus the slimes in Dragon Quest on the NES, these are even kind of like further removed from those, further removed from like the identity that the various series within the genre were kind of chasing at the time. And so we have something here that's like just very, very like Dungeons and Dragons-esque. I do like how those goblin things lose their hats if you after you get them down, presumably after you get them down to a certain life value. Sure, I'll save, but what I also wanted to do is heal up. And then, of course, also unique to this point in the series is that I can see all of my enemies on the screen. They're all static right now, so they basically just kind of like act as fixed points, bottlenecks. Unlike a game like Lufia 2, in which you could see all of the enemies on the battlefield, but they would move when you did. And so there was some strategy in terms of like, making sure that you understood the battlefield, where the enemies are, how fast they could move, and stuff. If you wanted to avoid battles, or if you were kind of trying to accomplish something as quick a time as possible, or whatever, added to a more puzzle-esque element, whereas these are just like basically fixed points for encounters. But that also means that they can, pretty like fine-tune the experience, which they probably felt would appeal to those Western gamers that they were wanting to sell the game to. One of the things that's really standing out to me now is just the great soundtrack. Not a surprise from a Final Fantasy game, but it's also not. It's also not. It also has its own identity within the overall series, which is nice to see. So I saw a red-looking tree somewhere, which I assume are the ones that I can cut down. Yeah, there it is. Oh, it's the evil tree. Okay, here we... Oh, there we go. It was actually a Oxman. Oh, in disguise. So Kaylee just got poisoned. The same way the trees were getting poisoned. Oh, this is good. This is a good boss battle theme. I'm into it. So I only have a life spell. I do like how all of the items and stuff have their own little, unique icons, which wasn't really something you see much in these earlier Final Fantasy games, which is fun. I can't remember. I know, like, later Dragon Quest games, you get icons and drawings of all the different items, but I don't know if Dragon Quest was doing it at this point. It's a big, like, it's a big ask. It's a lot of added work to be, to have to come up with sprites for all of those. Okay, so Kaylee got poisoned. Now we need an elixir, which is in the Sand Temple. And so I'm going to go get it. Oh, hey, there we go. I got an axe. Cool. Okay, and now with, pressing the R button, L and R, I can cycle through my tools, which is cool. Like, this is like, again, reminds me of some later Japanese RPGs, like Wild Arms, or like, I keep bringing up Lufia 2, which is interesting because this game is much, much simpler than Lufia 2, but it also does kind of remind me of Lufia 2 in some funny ways. I'm not as familiar with Lufia, which came out closer in time to this. I played it a fair bit as a kid, but I haven't played it in a number of years, so there might even be parallels there. I keep trying to use my axe, and it keeps missing. So let's switch to sword. So axe must be strong, but with lower accuracy. But it's cool because I got the axe from Kaylee, and I can use it in the overworld and in the dungeon, but I can also use it in battle, which kind of adds to the complexity of battle a little bit. Alright, so I level up level 4. Some more healing potions I think I used. So we've got like a very strict grid-based movement in this game, which is obviously found in a lot of Japanese RPGs from this time. The lack of a run button, or the lack of any way to be able to speed things up, definitely isn't great. I don't love it, but at the same time, it's the dungeons in the town seem small enough that it probably wouldn't really get in the way over the course of a playthrough. With any luck, you get the ability to run later in the game, like the sprint shoes in Final Fantasy VI. I can't remember, does Final Fantasy IV have an equivalent of sprint shoes? Or are you just walking the whole time? Is there any way to run in that game? I think one of the main reasons to play some of the ROM hacks of Final Fantasy VI, like Brave New World, or even the Ted Woolsey Uncensored patch, is just the ability to be able to run right off the bat without having to equip sprint shoes or even acquire sprint shoes, which generally takes an hour or two in a regular playthrough. So, excuse me. There's a battlefield round 10 of 10. I don't know what that means, but let's check it out. Okay. So I guess this is the equivalent of fighting battles on the overworld? Uh-oh, I'm poisoned. Okay, what do we think? Does that last after battle? Keep missing. Three more to go. Oh, I gotta go heal up again because I am poisoned. I haven't found any. Well, I guess I have a heal. Is that what it was called? It doesn't actually. Okay, so cure potion, heal potion. I guess presumably heal potion is, heal status effects. Move out of my way. Okay. There. So I need to go, save my friend. Need to get the elixir. I do really like the fact that, I can seemingly save anywhere outside of battle. I really want to see what these, battlefields are. It said I had 3 to go after I completed the last one. Eight more to go? Oh, it said I had 9. Oh. Okay, what happens if I finish 10 of these battles? Something good's gotta happen, right? A lot of repeated tile work in the game, which is reminiscent of just a lot of those early Super Nintendo Japanese RPGs. Definitely doesn't have the same kind of hand-drawn qualities as the later games on the system. Final Fantasy VI is it's a tile-based game, but just the style has improved over time, and the artists got better and better about understanding how to create really kind of unique, evocative settings using tile-based graphics. This game really just feels like a slightly tuned NES game in a lot of ways. Five more to go. All right, halfway there. Let's do this. Okay, so it was going by too fast, but I see now what it's saying is that those trees are weak against axe. So the type of weapon that you use against any given enemy does matter, which is cool. Yeah, like I'm doing a ton of damage against those trees. Game doesn't seem very difficult off the bat. Obviously, I died in that first opening battle, but that almost seemed random. I had no option but just to attack and hope I hit. And I was missing a lot. But otherwise, I've been getting a lot of healing items. I can do a ton of damage. No enemy seems to take more than one hit outside of the first couple of random encounters. And they don't hit for a lot unless they... Well, except sometimes they do. But at the same time, I can counter that just with healing items. Okay, this is the last one. Here we go. We're going to find out why I just fought 10 battles in a row. Cleared them out. Aiden leveled up. Already cleared out. So is that just an opportunity to, like, level up? Like an optional way of built-in grinding, I guess? Don't know. But thank you for bearing with me for 10 battles. We're going to go heal up again. Hey. And apparently chests... That's kind of interesting. The chests actually seem to be restored every time I leave. Maybe it's just at this inn. Maybe that's just a way of making sure that at this point in the game, players don't run out of like restorative items by using too many of them. Is there a chest in this place? What are these glowing orbs? Got my axe now. Let's give them a... Didn't seem to do anything. Okay. So I'm already level 5. Leveled up quite a bit at the beginning here. Oh, I can go behind it. Here, look at this. Aha! Oh, okay. Ah, excellent. Okay. So that's how I find new spells. There was that secret entrance to that house, and I found a cure spell, which is great. That's going to definitely help my help me out at this point. The level forest, I cleared that out already. So this is Sand Temple. I can't go any other direction. I've got to clear out the Sand Temple first. Let's see what we can do. The music is top notch. I can't get over that. Lots of like unique melodies, like unique instrumentation, like this kind of like bopping like rock electric guitar is just not something you heard a lot in the genre at this time. It's really good. All right, so this guy, I like the main character. He's got sass. 9,000 GP. Ain't gonna happen. Still got an allowance. Okay. Okay, so I have to go to the Bone Dungeon to help him find a treasure. If he gets the treasure, I get the elixir. Do I have any choice? When do we go? Alright. Who's this guy? There's a battlefield nearby. Why don't you whack a few monsters there and maybe win something, kid? Tristram. Tristram has like a growing star. That's pretty sweet. So he suggests at the battlegrounds I can win something. So maybe after every 10 battles or whatever, you you have a chance to like get an item or something, perhaps. My guess, Tristram looks like a ninja. Is that what he is? And it looks maybe like he has, you know, throwing stars that might. I thought maybe they would hit multiple multiple enemies at once. This battlefield should go way faster than the last one because I have two characters, and Tristram is 2 levels higher than I am. Battles definitely do not feel very complex at all so far. And obviously that's likely intentional given the origins of the game. But we'll see. Ooh, okay. That's new. He's got life. Yeah, same thing. I have the text speed, the message speed set to the fastest, and it's like it's too fast. I haven't played many games where I feel like I don't want the absolute fastest possible text speed, but this is a game where I might actually recommend turning the setting down a couple of notches, because like in battle I can't read through that fast enough. With some fast-moving clouds. Really wanted to show off some parallax scrolling. Okay, 4 more to go. We can do this. I'm very curious about what I win and, you know, what the benefit of doing these battlegrounds really would end up being. It's kind of crazy. We're about half an hour into the game and we're already, you know, through our first scenario in the level forest. And we've had, you know, multiple characters join our team. One of which is wanting to, you know, help us. The other one, Tristram, is extorting us. So the game definitely moves quickly. There's very little in the way of like, you know, like exposition or cutscenes slowing things down. It's just like, you know, dungeon to town to dungeon to different scenario. And if anything, the biggest thing slowing us down is doing these battlegrounds that I've been fighting through. I think you can probably leave the battlegrounds as well, go back and heal, because on the map it does seem to be keeping track of how many you have to get through. So it really does seem like a just built-in opportunity for grinding on the world map if you need that. Honestly, like a big problem so far, like a criticism on my end, is that I find that your characters miss very frequently in battle. Okay, so I want a charm. Yeah, your characters miss a lot in battle, which is just sort of strange. Okay, so I've got that equipped. I've got a charm. Okay, and then this is my other character's equipment. So his moon helm gives him... He's strong against fire and poison, maybe? Okay. And weapons... Okay. So the charm just seemed to be a... an accessory that just gave me +1 to defense. And appeared to be like automatically equipped. Like It's here. I can't unequip it. Maybe once you get like multiple pieces of armor or multiple pieces of pieces of equipment, you then can like equip and unequip them. But clearing out that battlefield gave me that charm, made me slightly stronger defensively. We'll head into the bone dungeon, and then we'll see how that goes. I think I've probably got about just under 10 minutes left of streaming time here. But we've made it. Like, some of these streams, 45 minutes feels like I barely get through the intro. Panzer Dragoon Saga I streamed a little while ago, and like 15 minutes in, I was still watching cutscenes. And that's one of the reasons I like doing these sort of older Super Nintendo RPGs, because I do feel like you can get further in 45 minutes or so compared to later RPGs. And because I stream from a pretty old computer with just an integrated GPU, and it doesn't like to emulate and stream PlayStation and older at the same time. So I'm fighting a lot of these toads. I'm gonna get poisoned a lot, but I haven't actually seen a place where I could buy heal potions to be able to heal up. In fact, I don't even see a place where I have like money. Right? Like I get, oh no, okay, GP, there we go, 279. So I do get money, but I haven't seen a store yet. Maybe I missed one in that town. So we got some sandworms here, which are looking very, very Dune-esque. Again, like you can see, in this battle, I've already missed 3 times, which just feels like a lot. Like, I don't get why I'm missing so much. I'd rather the characters off the bat just have higher accuracy, but maybe do a little less damage, because then at least it feels like I'm making progress in battles. But it's got 10. Oh, okay. So, each time he uses his ninja stars, they deplete in number. Is that right? So he just did, yeah. Okay, so he has technically a finite number of his attack, which makes it even more frustrating when I miss. I'm gonna switch over to my sword and see if that helps with the accuracy. But now I want my axe on this tree. I'm also gonna switch over to auto mode, I think, for my companion. So Tristram's ninja stars can poison, like have a poison attribute, and it looks like those toads are actually strong against poison, which is kind of interesting. I still defeat them in one hit, which is good, but so this definitely feels more like a full-fledged dungeon than the forest did. A lot more enemies, more tightly designed. The forest area definitely felt like a tutorial, whereas this just feels like a full-on dungeon. Definitely getting the sense that, like, the dungeons are challenging in that they're sort of like an attrition of like resources. You know, like how deep can you make it with the resources you have at hand. Okay, so he's got items. He cured himself, but didn't heal his poison, which is what I would have liked him to have done. So in the interest of just seeing a little bit more of the dungeon, normally I clear out all the bad guys, but I'll just push forward, see what's going on in the next room. You notice I keep saving. I tend to save a lot in Japanese RPGs. I've, you know, learned the hard way what it's like to lose progress in a game. But also what's kind of cool is I recently picked up an FX Pack Pro, which is an FPGA-based flash cart that allows me to play games on my Super Nintendo, on my CRT TVs, and I can also port over save games from from emulation runs like this, so I could play it on my computer. I've got Final Fantasy Mystic Quest somewhere. I can't find my cart right now with my my other carts, but I actually do kind of have a hankering to play through the whole thing for the first time, and I'll probably play on my Super Nintendo. And so, like, you know, I'll have to decide: do I want to play on my actual cart? Do I want to port this save over to my flash cart? But it's nice to have options like that. 50 explosive for 30 GP. That seems like a pretty good, pretty solid deal. Now I have another item. This feels like the right place to stop. Probably halfway through this dungeon. It's been a lot of fun. I'm a big Final Fantasy fan. I've played through so many of the games, but I've never really played Mystic Quest before outside of the first 10 minutes. This is by far the furthest I've ever made it into the game. And, you know, despite its reputation for being very simplistic and dumbed down in its design, I do feel like it seems like a fun experience if you're looking for that sort of early 16-bit generation Japanese RPG, or, you know, the feeling of something like what would have happened if, like, the NES had lasted longer and Japanese RPGs had continued down that path. The music is great. The world seems fun to explore, and the scenarios are kind of interesting in that, you know, big idea, kind of goofy Final Fantasy way. And I look forward to playing more of it down the road. I'll write up about Mystic Quest later today. I'll sit down and I'll write about it for Astrolabe. It'll appear in the next issue of the newsletter, which is probably coming out next week. You'll be able to hear about all my thoughts on the game and see an archived copy of this video, which will also be on YouTube. You can find that at youtube.com/AidenMoher. It's been a ton of fun. Thanks for joining me for this lunchtime stream of Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. I appreciate the support, and you have a great day. Thanks for stopping by.